All right. Hello. I have a sweet friend, Rebecca Turner, here today, and I have gotten to know her through the years. She's just a blessing to me, and we were talking about eating disorders and body image.
Get right to it, yeah. But
and a lot of things going on in the world today, and the stress and pressure that not only girls but boys have, and then it gets carried on into adulthood. And so I asked if she would share today. I wanted to first say that part of, or the reason that I'm continuing to do these is just really based on this Psalm 105, 1 through 5, and that is, "Oh, give thanks to the Lord, call upon his name, make known his deeds among the peoples, sing to him, sing praises to him, tell of all his wondrous works, glory in his holy name. Let the hearts of those who seek the Lord rejoice, seek the Lord and his strength, seek his presence continually. Remember the wondrous works that he has done, his miracles and the judgments he uttered." So we're just here to praise him and seek him and share the wondrous things he's done, and Rebecca's going to share some of that. So first of all, introduction. Rebecca is a registered dietitian and multimedia dietitian. She's an author. In fact, I have one of her books here, Enjoy Good Health, a faith-based approach to personal wellness. And she also, before this book, wrote the book Mind Over Fork. And she is, you might hear her on the radio or see her blog. She's been on TV. She's a counselor as a dietitian, and she's just got her fingers everywhere, right?
That's a yes. She's tired.
She's a mother of two girls,
yes.
a 9-year-old and a 2-year-old, Neely and Emily James. And she grew up, where did you grow up?
I grew up in Terry, Mississippi, Hinds County, and then went off to Southern
Miss.
To the top.
Yeah.
For all undergraduate, graduate, internship. It just couldn't get me away from there.
That's right. And tell the story of how you even came into becoming a dietitian.
I was a marketing major. I thought I was going to be a buyer for Saks Fifth Avenue, which is funny now. Yeah. And I was just that kid who had to take, or that student that had to take nutrition as part of their prereqs, and fell in love with it. I didn't even know that could have been a profession. But for me, it was making the connection that you had some control over what you ate, or what you chose to eat, or the beverages that you chose, was linked to your health. And there was an opportunity for you to take ownership in that, and that really clicked for me. And also, it is absolutely phenomenal how food and the body's chemistry works together to thrive, or to manage or prevent disease, or to make a kid grow, or your brain work. And so when you start to really understand how everything around us, particularly foods and whole foods in general, work with the body so beautifully designed, I mean, you can't help but be interested in it.
Right. And you obviously bring your faith into this discussion about your body, and how it says a faith-based approach to personal wellness. Rebecca believes in your health is a form of worship.
Absolutely, I do. I think, and I think that's a different mindset that so many of us have. At least even the faith community. You feel if I asked you if you ever prayed about food, you'd probably giggle, and you've either prayed to have your sweet tooth taken away, or you prayed the Lord, would just melt the fat away and you would stay, right? And so, but when you see it's this beautiful design of God created us, and then he also created the things that would make us survive and thrive, and he worked into his plan the pausing and the thanksgiving of receiving, and it's like it's a connection with nature, which he created, versus us. And it can be a beautiful opportunity. And two, when it is a choice that you make, when we change the mindset of trying to always perfect our body, which is a very worldly, fleshly thing to do, to manipulate everything to get the best looking body, to you want to care for your body, you approach things so differently. And so it's a shift. It's a mindset shift for sure. But to me, a true form of wellness is the ultimate form of worship.
And you didn't always have this all figured out.
No, I did not have all this figured out. I mean, I don't think anybody gets into dietetics without some level of dysfunction with their connection with food. I'm sure somebody's out there, but they're a unicorn. But for me, it happened slowly, like so many does over time. You know, I was very active in high school, and then I got to college and wasn't, and I really rebelled in a lot of different ways. And you know, the freshman 15 wasn't alien to me as well. And so the difference was, though, I was now in the field of dietetics, so I was learning all of these things, and then I was my own guinea pig, right? And the problem just became whenever the control started controlling me. And also getting a lot of validation and self-worth out of numbers, whether it was the size of my jeans or the pace of my mile, or you know, whatever it could be. People responded, "Oh, you look great," or "Man, you're really rocking those 5Ks," and there was just something in you that didn't want to lose that. And then if you have the right personality and you know, combination of things, it's just the control keeps controlling, and you want to go a little bit further, or how can I manipulate things a little bit more, until all the joy and everything sucked out of your food and eating experience, and you're literally suffocating. You're suffocating. It's a prison. It's a mental prison is what it feels like. I would hands down say I had disordered eating, probably borderline eating disorder, but now working with so many who do have clinical eating disorders, I would say there are levels of that hell that I never reached. So I wouldn't want to say necessarily I understand the extent to what some people walk in, but I feel like there's a lot of us who suffer in silence, and I was one suffering in silence with my disordered eating, because from the outside I was making perfect grades, I was running 5Ks, I was eating my fruits and vegetables, I was engaged to a wonderful man, I had the best future, you know, in front of me. But in my book Mind Over Fork I wrote, I sat in my fiance's lap and burst into tears because I was going to have to eat cake in public, and I didn't know how I was going to planning my wedding, and I didn't know what was supposed to be at that point the happiest day of my life.
You're worried about eating cake.
I was worried about having to eat cake, and it's something in me clicked that it's probably not good. But you get so wrapped up on it.
Explain the spectrum between disordered eating and eating disorders.
There's a fine line, but there's also, you know, there's a continuum there. I would say any time that your body image or your relationship with food starts to hinder your physical or your mental health, then you have crossed the line. You definitely are in the disordered eating realm. And then clinical eating disorders would be if your physical health is truly starting to suffer in multiple ways. But that switch is sometimes quick, sometimes long. But most of us, I feel like we suffer in that silence of just we're coping with it, and we don't recognize that it's not the way that it has to be. We know it's not normal, but we don't recognize that there are other ways of doing things.
So you're a dietitian, you're young, and you're about to get married, and you recognize, I'm worried about eating cake. So where did that go for you, and how did you come out of that? Unhealthy, like you were always judging yourself, like you said, by numbers.
By numbers. I mean, you know, it was, and that was where it really walked back to me with getting back into my faith. It was, and interestingly enough too, I was running 5Ks, and then I switched to, obviously that's what people like me or do, is 5K, let's do a half marathon, let's do a marathon, right? And it was on those longer runs that I started to reconnect with just like a sense of stillness. And I was saved at a young age, 9 or 10, but like most people who go off to college, you know, I found my rebellion streak. I sowed my wild oats, so to speak. But it was always there, right? Once he's there, he's always there. And I'll have to credit actually marathon training for bringing food into a light that I'd never really recognized it for, as having, instead of it being something that I just had to do, it was now fueling me something that I wanted greater. And so even though it was still kind of disordered, I started to eat more and get more into like endurance running. I wasn't going to finish a 20-mile run if, you know, off of just a salad with fat-free dressing. You know, I started to appreciate foods for what they could do for the sport that I was involved in.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say that really took me out far. But, it's a process. And so you get to all these benchmarks of sort of managing these emotions and these desires to control. And it wasn't until my first daughter that really I would say that some of the healing really started to begin. Meredith knows it took us a minute to get pregnant with our first one.
Mm-hmm.
I probably wasn't honest with my healthcare provider, but none of us that are suffering in silence are. I know I was at a very thin weight, and running those type of miles is just not good for fertility. But when I did get pregnant, I recognized it as the light bulb turned on,
yeah.
that this was a gift from God. I knew that, like I had that much, and I didn't want to screw it up. So for the first time in my life, or in like the last probably 10 to 15 years, I valued my unborn child's health over whatever I looked like. And there was something in me that knew that my crazy way of managing food and exercise and all that was going to screw this up. And so for 40 weeks, 39 to be exact, I think, 40 weeks, 39 weeks, I allowed myself to reconnect with what it means to care and fuel your body. And that was a really turning point for me. I got baptized pregnant with Neely December 25th, 2011 at Broadmoor. And, I would like to say that it was a one and done. It really started to heal me emotionally, but then you have the baby and you fall right back into, stinking patterns.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, I have learned over the years that it's all about managing those monkey brains and those emotions rather than the light, you flip a switch and then it's over. And I think we set poor expectations to, even in the self-care world or the faith world, that you can flip a switch and then life's just fine and you never struggle. No, I still and when I start, and I know myself, like when things get stressful, I'll catch myself. The first thing I start to do is start to berate myself over a pant size and how can I get small. I go back to, but I am in a much better place now that I can pull myself out of it. But you just have to recognize yourself and have the good managing tools.
And I ask you about healthy eating and a healthy mindset. Give me kind of your philosophy with patients. Like, what is healthy eating? Like, how do you get the mindset of, you were talking about good food and bad food and joyless life, and
you asked me too what my favorite verse was, and I think that's what comes. It was a big aha moment for me reading John 10:10. You probably can recite it. The thief comes only to steal, kill, destroy, but I came to give you life and joy to the fullest. And for whatever reason, one day reading it, it just all connected with me that I was doing fine by every benchmark, except I was living a joyless life because of this shackled to body image and food issues. It was sucking the joy straight out of my life. And I got angry, I got wholly angry in the right direction. I recognized that, well, maybe I'm not the problem. Maybe I'm under attack. And because we think that the devil wants the big things, and he does. He wants your marriage, he wants your kids, he wants our country, but he also wants your joy. And so even if you get up every day and you put on your lipstick and you put on your pearls and you smile for the camera and you take charge, if you lay down at night or go to get in the shower and all you do is self-shame, have guilt around your body, you think that you're a slob or whatever, can't control food, or you go to food to sort of numb the pain at the end of the day, and then you feel guilt and shame for it. Well, he's won, right? Like, he won. You may not be out, committing big crimes or cheating on your spouse, but he stole your joy that Jesus came to die for. And so at the end of the day, he still won. And when I really connected with that, that was another pivotal moment where it was like, I have another war to fight, and it's not against me, it's against something else. Right. And so trying to find the joy in food again and the joy in my own skin again. That was a whole nother journey, but it's one that if you don't walk, you can't fully live a life of wellness and worship.
Right. And you view true wellness is worship.
Right. And another thing too that I often want people to think about is like in 2 Corinthians, Paul talks about he has his thorn in this flesh, in this flesh. When he is weak, then God is strong. I fully believe that if you've ever wrestled with maintaining your weight or a true blue eating disorder, you suffered in silence, and you keep saying things like, I keep trying and I can't. I've tried every diet and I can't. I do all this and I can't. I'm like, and you do pray those prayers of, God, just take away the sweet tooth. Or, God, I am so sorry that I can't do this. I promise if we can just do this one more time. Or, God, please forgive me. I had the cheeseburger today, right? Like, I feel like God is weeping for you. I want you to look at it more as that being an invitation to surrender it and let him in, right? When we go to God, instead of saying, I am so sorry that I ate it, or I'm so sorry I can't do this, or I'm so sorry, please forgive me. Don't hate me because I'm big, or don't hate me because I'm, and you just lay it at his feet and then you go, help. Like, you help me. Where I'm here, I'm weak. I've tried it on my own. We've never asked him for that kind of help, right? We've always asked for forgiveness. Right? And I don't think see, Jesus doesn't care about your thighs, the size of them, but he cares because you care, right? So that's a door of opportunity. The devil doesn't care about your thighs. I just really don't think that. But he cares because you care. So that's also a window of opportunity.
He wants you to be defeated and self-shamed.
And Jesus is going, let me in those hurting places. So going back to your Psalms 105, when you do that, when you totally surrender, when you ask for help instead of forgiveness, and then you manage to order the side salad instead of the fries, or you go for the walk instead of binging Netflix, or you find whatever it is that you do, or for some of us, you go to the party and you enjoy a slice of cake and you don't go run 5 miles after. Who gets the glory?
You give thanks, right?
Right? Because it wasn't you, and it's not about us. That is a form of worship. That's the connection. We are too busy trying to do this wellness thing on our own, and to sort of also earn grace or love from God too. Like, I'm so sorry, please forgive me. But I think he wants to help us in that. That's a thorn that so many here in the West have, that we don't recognize that as an opportunity to lean into God instead of be ashamed and want forgiveness from God.
Wow.
It's a different prayer life.
It's, again, a control thing that we keep away from letting him have. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have a way to really tell if you're you have disordered eating? Like, is there a good litmus test for that?
Yeah, I would say, one would be, does it take over your mental health? Is food the only thing you think about every day? Are you terrified of putting on 5 pounds? If putting on 5 pounds makes you shiver, right? Going to the doctor's office also and being petrified of having to get on the scale. Does the number on the scale or what you have planned for lunch take up a lot of your mental space or your emotional space? Then there's a good chance you're somewhere on the spectrum. And I feel like you can't get out. You can't be a woman in the West or a man and not be somewhere on the spectrum. There are some folks who this does not resonate with, but you're a minority. You're a unicorn. Most everybody is like, oh my gosh, yes.
What are some warning signs that families can see with eating disorders, like more severe clinical eating disorders?
Well, first I would say if this resonates with you, don't be afraid to ask for help no matter where you are in it. And I would say first to start praying an honest prayer of show me and guide me and help me out. And I fully believe when you start to be open, the universe starts to provide the next steps sort of for you. That would be for adults in that sort of way. And that would be like a really short way of saying it. For your kids, be very mindful. Be mindful as parents of what you are modeling to your child. And here's a really good litmus one, especially if you have young girls. Right now, if your daughter woke up tomorrow and she went through the day thinking about herself and thinking about the food the way that you do in secret, and that makes you sad, there's probably something, like if you wouldn't wish your inner life around your body or food on your daughter, there's work that can be done, right? And that's not to shame you. I want that to be a moment of revelation that, okay,
Yeah.
recognition
Mhm.
for
As you
it.
said, we tend to
project our biggest
that on
fears
them.
onto our kids. And then sometimes it may not be the parent. Eating disorders come from all different paths and ways. For the most part, you have to think about young kids. What do they have in their control? Usually nothing. They're told what to wear, when to go to bed, what school they're going to, what activities they're going to do. And so when things really start to get stressed or whatever, we all have to have coping mechanisms.
Right.
And for the most part, your tweens aren't going to the bottle, right? Mom would probably
Hopefully
notice.
not.
Hopefully, I mean, there are cases,
Right.
but for the most part, they don't even think about that. They don't know to do that. They can't shop because
Right.
they're probably not having
Going out.
partners and all that. So the only thing they control is their food.
Food intake.
The food intake. Sometimes it's the restriction. Sometimes it's the other way of coping. You'll start to find snacks hidden and other ways. Big red flags though would be big changes. You just start to see withdrawal from the dinner table. You start to notice major weight changes, whether that's up or whether that's down. Your only job then is to make a pediatrician appointment, right? Your pediatrician can be a great intersect for this instead of asking those questions. If a child does start to wear, in terms of going less weight, wear baggy clothes, starts to withdraw from wanting to go to their favorite places to eat, starts to make excuses for GI issues or whatever it may be. Also, young girls who want to all of a sudden be vegetarian or vegan, not that they don't have their virtues and can't be healthy options. Usually a 16-year-old girl has other things up their sleeve if they're all of a sudden avoiding food groups or picking up diet trends. And so just being aware of it.
And it seems like it's such a huge epidemic now.
And it feeds and it festers. I'll also tell this for moms, especially, it could be girls and boys, but mostly with girls. Girls in groups, it will fester. If one starts, they all will start. And so if you start to notice like-minded things going on, and that's even worse because they now have a bond around it. And it can start out small. With the opportunity, with many of you being parents, I would say also be mindful of how you validate healthy behaviors. So if you do have a child who maybe presents and starts to lose a little weight, be careful how you praise that, because you don't know what you're you may be reinforcing a bad behavior,
right.
And they're getting good validation from you.
Right.
And I don't have all the right answers or the right ways to approach it, because it can feel like you're always walking on eggshells. I would just say being mostly mindful and recognizing your kids' other attributes other than just the way that they look or their weight. Is also a big thing. Or even if maybe they struggle in school, your kids just want to feel seen and heard.
Right. And you said they'll come home with that to you getting it from outside sources.
Yes.
And what is really at the bottom of that, right?
Right. And so never be afraid to ask for help. Having one talk with the pediatrician, setting the pediatrician up with what your concerns are before you get there is very helpful. I know a lot of pediatricians appreciate that. Give them a heads up. They'll ask the questions.
Right.
That way you're not especially
aware
when
of
it's sticky conversations.
And of course there are a lot of scary long-term consequences of severe eating disorders.
And I think young girls should be made aware of this as well. I don't know if it's so much like sex ed that you would want to show them all the scary things, but when you deprive your body of nutrients, and nutrients are your body's worker bees, your body simply cannot thrive, they cannot survive without adequate nutrients, and so they need to understand that when you deprive the body in a low calorie form for long enough, there are a series of things that start to happen. Sadly, the first thing that starts to go is your lean tissue. You would be mortified to know you started losing that in your 20s and 30s or on up. But next, our young girls and boys, their bones are not calcified until the age of about 18, really 19 is like calcified. So those very precious years of preteen, early teens, if they are restricting dairy, and that could be but milk intake or adequate food intake, adequate calorie intake, they will forever be trying to mitigate bad bones. They can't make their bones stronger past the age of 18. And so, so then you're always going to be working uphill with that as well. But you can also see things from hair thinning to skin issues, your teeth starting to turn gray, and as it progresses, the way an eating disorder, particularly anorexia, usually has its end is cardiac arrest. The heart requires energy to pump, and so that will eventually start to fade as well. And so these are real consequences of just sweeping these conversations under the rug.
And you said, of course, ultimately, like your verse John 10:10 says, "Still kill and destroy." It's ultimately suicide.
Because it's the voices in their head.
Right.
It's the eating disorder voice in their head that is convincing them of the fear of food or the fear of their body or whatever it may be. And I would never condone it, but you can't fault someone for not wanting to live in that prison anymore.
And so you really want to stop.
Yeah,
and
you
get
just
some help in that situation.
And I think, but I also want to say there is help. Like, there's hope. And the sooner that a young girl can get connected with it, the better. Oftentimes, this really honestly starts with a young woman who would like to take control of their health, and they don't have the right tools to do it. So what do? They Google or see the trend du jour. And so where we have failed, I think, as a profession or just as as parents or just the education system, you're just not taught how to eat.
That's right.
In a balanced and healthy way, and in a non-fearful way. It's all fear-based, and so they don't know what to do other than don't eat.
Right.
And it worked. So and so it's just it's a vicious cycle.
And it's not just girls, right?
No, it's also young boys. I see that.
Yeah.
But that's also from my own perspective, experience.
Having little girls,
yeah.
And you were saying with sports and athletes and boys wanting to look a certain way, muscle and all, they're trying to control their eating as well. So what's your last little bit of advice? I think John 10:10, I love that verse. It's the abundant life verse to me, but living life to the full. This is
and
not,
that's what
God wants for you.
Yes, it is your God-given right to have a joyful life. And if you have no joy around food, and you only feel guilt and shame when you look in the mirror because of your body, then explore that. Explore it. You deserve better, and you can find your way out of that. And then too, with your kids, just be mindful of what you project onto them, or being there for them when it comes to these sort of conversations. I want to hug all of you because I know it's a struggle. It's a struggle for everybody. And I also think that you're not alone, and God wants to help. Like
Absolutely.
He's not mad. You're not a failure. You're fighting the wrong enemy.
Oh, that's right.
And so when you can fight the right enemy, then you have the strength to take care of yourself. And you were called to care for your body. God never asked us to perfect it.
That's right.
And so, that would be my last plea.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
So good.
I know I could keep going.